Right. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. It's wonderful to see you here. My name's Andrew McKee, and I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer of Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation here in Canada. We're very fortunate this evening to have this symposium put on for us or made available to us by Cheryl and Robert McEwen and the McEwen Center for Regenerative Medicine. The McEwen Center for Regenerative Medicine was established at the University Health Network in 2003 through the largest single donation to regenerative medicine in Canada, totaling $21 million. The vision and philanthropic commitment and generosity of this phenomenal couple is truly astounding, and we're very appreciative of their efforts. The McEwen Center for Regenerative Medicine is a world-renowned center for stem cell biology and regenerative medicine. What makes this symposium so crucial is that it's one of the ways of keeping you, our constituency, both for JDRF and the McEwen Center, informed and involved in all the medical advances that are going on in the diabetes research world today. And we have two of the world's leading diabetes researchers here with us tonight to speak to you. Canada plays a major role in the fight against diabetes, and our Canadian expertise is world-renowned. Since the discovery of insulin by Banting and Best in 1921, through advances such as the Edmonton Protocol in the early 2000s, JDRF researchers have made astounding advances and lead the world in type 1 diabetes research discoveries. Our resilience, passion, and progress in research towards a cure, as well as advancements in science and management tools, has improved the lives of children and adults living with this complex disease. JDRF is rigorous in our mission to find a cure by identifying and funding the best world-class research. And these are two of the researchers you're going to hear from tonight. JDRF's commitment towards finding a cure since our foundation in 1971, we have funded over $1 billion in research globally and anticipate funding another $1 billion of research over the next 5 years. With continued and increased commitment to research, Canadian innovation could deliver those breakthroughs that we're so desperately looking for right now to help deal with type 1 diabetes and the roll-on effects that we're seeing in some type 2 diabetes research as well. Please join me tonight in thanking Rob and Cheryl McEwen and the McEwen Center for making this evening possible. Your partnership in tonight's event is a tribute to the tremendous need and potential for regenerative medicine and the wealth of medical knowledge within Canada. So thank you two very much. I'd now just quickly like to introduce the moderator for this evening's discussion, Dr. Gary Lewis. Dr. Lewis is a full professor in the Departments of Medicine and Physiology at the University of Toronto. He is also head of the Division of Endocrinology at the University of Health Network and Mount Sinai Hospitals. Dr. Lewis has indicated his life's ambition is for his research to make a major impact on the health of people living with diabetes, and I have no doubt that this will be fulfilled. Please welcome Dr. Gary Lewis.
Thanks very much, Andrew, and good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for coming. This is overwhelming to see so many people interested in this. My job tonight is to introduce to you two of the foremost stem cell researchers in the world. I think you've got a real treat here tonight, and also to keep things on time so that you can get out of here at 8 o'clock. Before I introduce our two speakers today, I just want to make a few general comments about diabetes. I have actually been taking care of people with diabetes for approximately 20 years. And I can tell you not a day goes by when I'm not touched by this disease. Diabetes is a very tough disease, and type 1 diabetes is the toughest of all the kinds of diabetes. I think many people in the audience know exactly what I'm talking about. There are probably a lot of people here who have diabetes, type 1 diabetes, or have at least a very close personal connection. So why is it so difficult? It's partly because it strikes at a young age, and that's very tough. It takes tremendous self-management, and it's a lifelong disease. But partly, and this is where as a physician I find it extremely frustrating, is we currently do not have, I'm sorry to say, we do not have a true physiologic method of insulin replacement. This is a major problem. And so the best we can do for type 1 diabetes is multiple daily injections of insulin with checking the finger sticks and adjusting the dose, etc., or an insulin pump. And for those of you who are not familiar, an insulin pump is not an artificial pancreas. It does not measure sugar, compute, and then inject the correct amount of insulin. It's a good method of insulin delivery, but the individual still has to measure their sugar, think about what they're going to eat, think about their dose, etc. So think about the normal pancreas. The pancreas is an absolutely amazing mini computer. It is monitoring the blood glucose and other nutrients every second, and it's doing a computerization of that, and it's putting out just the right amount of insulin directly into the bloodstream where it's supposed to go, so that it controls within a very narrow range the blood glucose throughout a day. So it can control blood glucose after a big meal, etc. And nothing that we have right now comes close to that. So when people take an injection of insulin under the skin, it's absorbed from under the skin at a slow rate over a period of hours. And you can't do anything about that once the insulin has actually been injected. And so people with diabetes have to deal with hypoglycemia and elevated glucose and a regimented lifestyle. It's very, very tough. So really, cell-based insulin delivery systems hold the greatest promise for what we can say would come close to a cure for diabetes. And that's what you're going to hear about tonight. You're going to hear about two different strategies for stem cell-based insulin delivery. They're different strategies, and it's going to be very interesting for you to contrast from the two speakers the different ways they're approaching stem cell research. We're going to have questions after both of their talks, and you'll be able to ask them more about their research. Also just want to say something else that's unique about the University Health Network right here where you're sitting is not only do we have the most prominent regenerative medicine and stem cell researchers, but actually what we've managed to do and put together over the past few years is a team that will take those kind of discoveries when they're ready from the bench to the bedside very, very rapidly. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Derek van der Kooy. Dr. van der Kooy is a professor of molecular genetics at University of Toronto. He's a member of the McEwen Center for Regenerative Medicine, and he's actually a grantee of the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. His research actually has been quite diverse. He's been interested in genes that are important for learning and memory. He's interested in brain function as it is associated with mood changes. And he's been very interested in stem cells in the eye and the brain. The realization that the stem cells in the brain actually are quite similar to stem cells from the pancreas has, fortunately for us, diverted Dr. van der Kooy's interest into trying to develop insulin-producing cells from adult stem cells in the pancreas. So please join me in welcoming and introducing Dr. van der Kooy to give his talk. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Gary, for that introduction, and thanks also for the introduction to diabetes. I think you portrayed the problem and the solutions very clearly. Now, as Gary mentioned, the problem with diabetics, type 1 diabetics, and even many type 2 diabetics, is that many of the insulin-producing beta cells of the pancreas are dead. They're gone. In type 1 diabetics, the vast majority of them are gone or are going. If you think that the best way to control blood sugar is to recreate those cells, to make new insulin-producing beta cells, then automatically you're talking about stem cell biology. So what I'd like to do first of all is just tell you what stem cell biology is and what stem cells are, and then tell you a little bit about one type of stem cell that we and others are working on to try and see whether it might be a useful treatment in the long term for diabetes. Gordon and then we'll talk about the other type of stem cell that might also be just as or as more promising than the cell I'll talk about. So stem cells. What are stem cells? Stem cells are defined by two criteria. The first is it's a cell that's able to make copies of itself. So we often say that stem cells should last the lifetime of the organism. They have to be able to self-renew themselves, make copies. And that's their most valuable asset, because they can continually make copies of themselves